right now, at this exact moment, there are roughly 303 million people around the world trying to build an audience online.
Yeah, 303 million.
It's a massive number.
Yeah.
And here is the brutal, kind of counterintuitive reality that almost nobody wants to admit.
Which is?
If you are starting a brand new business account today, from scratch, the absolute worst thing that could possibly happen to you is going viral.
It sounds completely backwards, doesn't it? I mean, we are totally conditioned to think that reaching millions of people is the ultimate victory condition for social media.
Right, like that's the dream.
Exactly. But if you have zero foundational structure, a viral video isn't a victory at all. It is a massive influx of chaotic, low-intent data.
Just totally random people.
Yeah, random data that will permanently confuse the machine learning systems trying to categorize your account.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Whether you are, a local service provider trying to get more leads, a marketing student dissecting digital strategy, or just someone insanely curious about why certain accounts explode while others stay stuck at 50 followers for years, you are in the right place.
You really are.
Today, we are taking a surgical look at the cold start problem. We're exploring how you build an audience from absolute zero without spending a single dime on advertising.
And we are anchoring this entire conversation on a phenomenal, just highly tactical masterclass published on March 21st, 2026 on the Whoop social blog.
Yeah, it's a great piece.
It's titled, Finding Your First 1,000 Followers on $0. The author is Frank Heidenreich, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Whoop Social.
Right.
He has spent over 14 years scaling organic social media for, I think it's more than 230 companies across 14 different countries.
So he isn't just theorizing here.
Not at all.
He has run the experiment hundreds of times. And the mission for our deep dive today is to extract his exact blueprint.
Which is so needed.
Yeah. But we aren't just going to list off a bunch of tips and tricks. We want to understand the deep algorithmic mechanics, right? And the human psychology behind why traditional growth advice actively harms beginners.
That's the key. The strategies you use to grow an account that already has 50,000 followers are fundamentally structurally different from the strategies you must use to get your first 100 followers.
That is the core paradigm shift we have to embrace right out of the gate, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. An established account has established data. I mean, the platform's algorithm already knows who likes their content.
Right, and knows what time those people are online.
Exactly, and what secondary interests they have. When you start at zero, the algorithm knows absolutely nothing about you. You are a totally blank slate.
Which brings us to the financial constraints of this blueprint. Frank sets up two non-negotiable rules for his framework, and he is incredibly ruthless about them.
He really is.
Rule number one is the imposition of hard $0 guardrails, like absolutely no ads.
No paid scheduling tools.
Right, no paying for giveaway promotions. If it costs money, he says, it is a subsidy, not a strategy.
The word subsidy is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, and, it is perfectly accurate.
How so?
Well, think about what a financial subsidy does in the real world, right?
Yeah.
It artificially props up a failing enterprise.
Okay, yeah.
If your organic content strategy is flawed, meaning human beings do not naturally care about what you are posting, paying a platform to force that content into people's feeds isn't fixing the problem.
It's just masking it.
Exactly. It's masking the failure with cash.
I want to push back on this a little bit, though, just playing devil's advocate.
Sure.
If I am a small business owner and I just built a beautiful new product, why wouldn't I want to just throw $50 at a targeted ad to get the ball rolling? Paying for ads on day one feels like printing flyers for a grand opening.
Right. It feels logical.
Yeah. So is it really that destructive? Or is he just being a purist for the sake of the $0 title?
No, it is actually incredibly destructive to the machine learning process. Let's look at how the algorithm works mechanically.
Okay.
It is fundamentally a matching engine. It wants to match content with users who will stay on the app longer. Every time your post is shown on a screen, the algorithm runs a microtest.
Right, it tracks everything.
It tracks dwell time, did they stop scrolling? It tracks scroll velocity, did they speed up when they saw your post?
Ouch.
Yeah, and it tracks click-through rate. If you pay for an ad, you are forcing the algorithm to show your content to a broad demographic before you have proven that your content can organically stop a scroll.
So it's premature.
Completely. You end up with thousands of impressions, but a terrible click-through rate and a terrible dwell time.
Because the messaging hasn't been refined yet. So I am basically paying to generate negative algorithmic signals.
Yes.
I am literally paying to tell the platform, hey, look how many people ignore my stuff.
Exactly, yeah. You are permanently weighting your account with bad historical data. That is why rule number 1 is so strict. You have to prove organic resonance first.
Makes sense.
And rule number 2 is even stricter. It's real follower integrity. Frank explicitly bans engagement pods, buying followers, and mass commenting bots.
Okay, we need to define engagement pods for you listening, because this is a trap so many beginners fall into.
Oh, it's a huge trap.
An engagement pod is essentially a secret group chat, maybe on Telegram or Discord, where a bunch of creators agree to artificially inflate each other's metrics.
Right.
So I post a video, I drop the link in the chat, and 50 people immediately go like it and leave a generic comment.
And people do it because they think it, tricks the algorithm into thinking the post is going viral.
Yeah, which sounds like a smart hack.
It sounds smart, but here is the mechanical reality of why that is account suicide. The algorithm doesn't just look at the volume of engagement, right?
Right.
It looks at the source of the engagement. It builds a behavioral profile of the people interacting with you.
So who are these people liking the post?
Exactly. If 50 people from an engagement pod interact with your post about local real estate, the algorithm looks at those 50 people. It sees that one is a crypto bro in Dubai, another is a gaming streamer in London, and another is a fitness influencer in Brazil.
So the algorithm tries to find a common denominator between those 50 totally random people, and it can't.
Right. It concludes that your content has no specific target audience, so it has absolutely no idea who to show it to next.
Wow.
Furthermore, Frank points out that if a follower wouldn't realistically pay for your service, refer your business to a friend, or genuinely respond to your content, they are actively diluting your algorithmic signal.
This goes back to my opening point about the danger of going viral.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm that local real estate agent and I post a funny video of me tripping over a for sale sign.
Okay, yeah.
It gets 2 million views because teenagers think it's hilarious. Suddenly I have 10,000 new followers.
But they are 10,000 teenagers who will never, ever buy a house from you.
Right. So tomorrow, when I post an incredibly valuable, highly researched breakdown of the local housing market,
The algorithm shows it to a sample of your new followers. The teenagers see it, they get bored, and they scroll past instantly.
the algorithm registers a 0% engagement rate from my own followers, assumes the post is garbage, and kills the reach entirely.
Yeah.
I have essentially built my own prison.
You have. That is why Frank insists that small accounts don't die from a lack of reach. They die from a lack of relevance. You have to optimize for relevance overreach.
Relevance overreach?
You are basically teaching the algorithm who your ideal customer is by only allowing your ideal customer to engage with you in the beginning.
Which means we have to completely redefine what a milestone looks like. If we aren't popping champagne for 1 million views, what is the target?
Well, Frank says the ultimate goal is 1,000 active, concentrated individuals who share a specific pain that you can alleviate.
And he gives a very precise, almost microscopic first milestone to aim for. You aren't aiming for 1,000 right out of the gate.
No, not at all.
Your very first metric of success is securing 10 to 20 repeat engagers.
10 to 20 people, that is it. But the key word there is repeat.
Why do you think repeat engagement is the exact metric he isolates? Why not just 20 followers?
Because following is a passive action. I mean, it takes half a second to click follow, and then you can forget the person exists.
True.
But if someone leaves a thoughtful comment on your post on Tuesday, and then they come back to your profile and leave another thoughtful comment on Friday that requires cognitive effort,
They remembered you.
it proves that you have actually occupied a space in their brain.
And from a machine learning perspective, repeat engagement is the ultimate validation signal. The platform's primary directive is user retention, right?
Exactly.
If your account is single-handedly pulling specific users back to the app or back to a specific session, the platform will reward you with distribution.
Once you hit that tiny milestone of 10 to 20 repeat engagers, Frank argues that your future reach becomes an outcome of your relevance, not just a daily gamble.
Okay, so the foundation is set. We know we want a hyper-concentrated audience. We know we are terrified of random low-intent traffic.
Right.
But practically speaking, how do we enforce this? If I'm setting up my profile today, how do I act as a bouncer, letting the right people in and politely telling everyone else to leave?
That brings us to the psychological concept of the one-sentence promise. To act as that bouncer, you have to stop trying to serve everyone.
Which is hard.
It is. But you have to clearly define your ideal follower as someone you can actively serve in the next 30 days. You need to know their exact pain point, what holds them back, and what success looks like for them.
I have to play devil's advocate here again, because this is where every single entrepreneur I know freezes up.
Go for it.
If I am an accountant and I say I only help freelance graphic designers sort out their quarterly taxes, I am intentionally ignoring the plumbers, the lawyers, and the retail stores.
Yes, you are.
It feels deeply counterintuitive, almost irresponsible, to exclude potential clients when my follower count is sitting at 0.
It feels irresponsible until you look at the macroeconomic data of the modern internet. The source references an Adobe Creativity Research PDF that maps out the current scale of the creator economy.
Right, the 303 million number we touched on in the hook.
Exactly. There are over 303 million creators globally, and over 165 million of those joined just since 2020.
The pandemic completely accelerated the shift.
Yeah.
Everyone realized they needed a digital storefront.
Everyone. Now, put yourself in the shoes of the consumer. If you are a freelance graphic designer looking for tax help and you search online, you are going to find tens of thousands of generalist accountants.
And their profiles all say the exact same thing.
Yeah, I help small businesses with taxes.
It's white noise. It's like standing in the middle of Times Square whispering your phone number. It doesn't matter how good your service is, the environment is designed to drown you out.
But if that same graphic designer stumbles onto a profile and the one-sentence promise reads, I help freelance graphic designers save 15% on their quarterly taxes using specific creative industry deductions with weekly quick tip videos.
Oh, they follow instantly. They literally have no choice. The cognitive load of the decision has been reduced to 0.
Exactly.
They don't have to wonder if the content applies to them.
That is why clarity is the ultimate competitive advantage in a sea of 303 million creators. You do not want to be a small fish in a massive ocean where everyone looks identical. You want to be the apex predator of a very specific, highly visible puddle.
The apex predator of a puddle. I love that.
And Frank states that a well-crafted one-sentence promise must contain 3 mandatory pieces.
Let's break those down. Piece number 1, who is it for? Piece number 2, what will you help them accomplish? And piece number 3, what is the format and frequency they can count on?
The source gives a masterclass example of this. Here's the promise. I help local service businesses turn everyday jobs into content that drives weekly inquiries using simple before-after breakdowns and copy and paste scripts.
Okay, let's dissect the mechanics of why that works so perfectly. Who it's for, local service businesses. What you'll help them accomplish, turn everyday jobs into content that drives weekly inquiries.
Yep.
And the format and frequency, simple before-after breakdowns and copy and paste scripts.
Notice what it doesn't say.
What?
It doesn't say, I will help you achieve your dreams. It doesn't say, I am a digital marketing guru. It is entirely focused on the utility provided to the viewer.
It's so grounded.
Frank points out a brutal reality regarding profile conversion rates. When the offer is perfectly clear, a profile converts around 1% to 5% of visitors into followers.
Wait, 1 to 5%? That is a soberingly low statistic.
Very sobering.
If 100 people visit my page, I am lucky to walk away with 5 followers.
And that is if your promise is flawless. If your bio is vague or trying to appeal to everyone, that conversion rate drops to fractions of a percent.
Wow.
People will not spend mental energy trying to decode what you do. If they don't understand your value proposition in 3 seconds, they bounce.
So the promise lives in the bio. But the bio alone isn't enough to convert that visitor. Frank introduces this concept of the profile airstrip, which is such a brilliant visual.
I love the airstrip analogy.
You aren't just giving them a business card. You are building an onboarding ramp. You are guiding their psychological state from who is this person to I need to follow them right now.
Think about the user journey. They see a comment you left somewhere or a piece of content. They click your name. The very first thing they see is the bio with the one-sentence promise.
Right.
Immediately below that are your pinned posts. On almost every major platform today, you can pin 3 pieces of content to the top of your feed.
Yeah, TikTok, Instagram, they all have it.
Crank says these 3 pins cannot be random viral hits. They must be a meticulously designed 3-part onboarding sequence.
Let's walk through the sequence. Pin number 1 is the Start Here sign.
Right. Pin 1 explicitly expands on your one-sentence promise. It answers 3 questions for the skeptical viewer. What exactly do you post? Who is this content specifically for? And what should I do next?
It removes all ambiguity.
Completely.
It's like walking into an apartment store and immediately seeing the directory map. You know exactly where you are. What is pin number 2?
Pin 2 is about positioning you as an authority, but without bragging. It needs to show you acting as a solution to an actual painful problem.
Like a case study.
Exactly. You tell a story about how you fixed a specific issue for a past client, or you do a deep dive tearing down a common industry mistake.
You are proving that you aren't just repeating things you read on Wikipedia, you have in-the-trenches experience.
Yes.
And then we get to pin number 3, which is arguably the most powerful psychological tool in this entire arsenal, the quick win.
Frank says pin 3 must show a quick win that the viewer can achieve in under 10 minutes. Why do you think the time frame is so crucial?
Well, it triggers the neurochemistry of reciprocity.
Exactly.
If I land on your profile and I am stressed out about my accounting, and your third pinned post gives me a simple 5-minute Excel shortcut that instantly solves a problem I've had all week, I just got a dopamine hit.
A massive one.
You just gave me tangible, measurable value for free within 30 seconds of me knowing you exist.
And human beings are hardwired to balance social ledgers. If you give me something valuable, I feel a subconscious debt to you.
Right.
In the digital world, the easiest way to repay that debt is to click the follow button. You have fundamentally lowered the perceived risks of following your account.
He also mentions lowering perceived risk in the bio itself using a proof signal.
Yes. The promise is what you will do for them, but the proof signal is why they should believe you.
So what does that look like?
It could be your years of experience, the number of clients you have helped, or a specific financial metric you have achieved. 14 years of experience, helped 230 plus companies. It acts as a trust anchor.
Okay, so the bio has the promise and the proof. The airstrip is locked in with the Start Here guide, the authority case study, and the quick win. The profile is fully optimized. Now, what about the day-to-day content? Do we just start posting whatever pops into our head?
Absolutely not. Frank recommends selecting 2 to 3 demand-driven content pillars. And I really want to emphasize that phrase, demand-driven.
I have to stop you there because whenever I hear content pillars, my eyes glaze over.
I know, it sounds awful.
It sounds like corporate marketing speak. It sounds incredibly restrictive. If I'm an entrepreneur, my business is dynamic. Why would I trap myself in a box of only posting 3 types of things? Doesn't that get incredibly boring for the creator?
It feels restrictive until you realize what you are actually doing psychologically. You aren't boxing yourself in. You are building a predictable neural pathway for your viewer.
Okay, unpack that.
Think about your favorite television show. It has a specific format, a specific tone, and a specific structure. If you tuned in to a true crime documentary series and suddenly episode 4 was a slapstick comedy, you would be furious.
I would feel totally betrayed.
Because your expectations were violated.
Right.
When you are a small account, you do not have the luxury of violating expectations. Your audience doesn't love you yet. They love the utility you provide.
That's a harsh truth.
It is. If you rotate through consistent demand-driven pillars, you train the audience and the algorithm exactly what to expect. Frank gives 4 specific intent-driven pillars that work for almost any niche.
Let's list those out. They are fixing problems, comparing options, revealing costly mistakes, and offering quick win checklists.
Let's apply those to a hypothetical business. Let's say you run a specialized B2B software consultancy.
Okay.
Your problem-fixing post might be a breakdown of why a specific integration always fails. Your comparison post pits 2 popular CRM platforms against each other, detailing the hidden costs of both.
Got it.
The mistake post reveals how companies leak thousands of dollars in unused software licenses. And the quick win is a Friday checklist for auditing your tech stack.
It is entirely focused on the end user's pain. There are no day-in-the-life vlogs. There are no pictures of your lunch. It is pure, concentrated utility.
And because it is structured, it takes the emotional guesswork out of content creation. You aren't staring at a blank screen wondering what to say. You are just executing the pillar strategy.
But here is the massive logical friction point we have to address right now.
What's that?
We just spent all this time perfectly optimizing the profile. The bio is crisp, the airstrip is glowing, the pillars are mapped out. But if we are sitting at 0 followers, this beautifully designed profile is basically a billboard hidden in a basement.
A billboard in a basement, yes.
It doesn't matter how good the airstrip is if absolutely 0 planes are flying overhead. If we have a $0 budget and we can't buy ads to force traffic, how do we actually get human eyeballs onto this profile?
This is the exact moment where most creators quit. They build the storefront, nobody shows up, and they assume the algorithm hates them.
Yeah, the algorithm is out to get me.
But Frank drops a massive reality check here. The vast majority of your first 1,000 followers will not come directly from the content you publish on your own feed.
That is a staggering realization. So
Mhm.
posting on your own feed when you have 0 followers is basically just stocking the shelves. It doesn't drive the foot traffic.
Exactly. To drive the traffic, you have to go to the surfaces where the attention already exists. Frank identifies 3 specific surfaces for forcing discovery: search, social feeds, and OP over other people's audiences.
Other people's audiences. That is the leverage point.
Mhm.
If you have no audience, you have to ethically hijack someone else's.
And the most accessible $0 engine for doing this is what Frank calls the comment to follower funnel.
The comment to follower funnel. We need to break down the mechanics of this because leaving comments sounds so basic, but the way he describes it is surgical. Comments are essentially free advertising real estate, right?
Right. It's executed correctly, yes.
Fine.
Think about the architecture of a popular social media post. When a post goes viral in your niche, thousands of your ideal customers are congregating in the comment section.
Right, they're all hanging out there.
And the algorithm surfaces the most highly rated comments to the very top, right below the original post. If you write a brilliant comment, it gets upvoted, and you just secured a free billboard in front of 50,000 highly targeted eyeballs.
But there's a very specific trigger for this. You can't just spam comments everywhere.
Timing is everything. Frank advises looking for posts that already have several comments in the last hour, where the audience perfectly aligns with your one-sentence promise.
So you're looking for an active wave.
Yes. If a post is 3 days old, the wave has crashed. Nobody is reading the comments anymore. If a post is brand new but has no traction, you are gambling. You want early momentum.
But the structure of the comment itself is where 99% of people fail. They act like spam bots.
Oh yeah, they jump into the comments and say, "Great post. By the way, I run an accounting firm. Check out my page for a free consultation."
It's repulsive. It's like being a guest at a dinner party.
How so?
Imagine you walk into a sophisticated dinner party where people are discussing real estate. You grab a glass of wine, stand on a chair, and start shouting, "Buy my stuff. DM me for details."
You'd be thrown out instantly.
Exactly. You were going to get thrown out of the house because you violated the social contract of the event. You acted like a predator.
But imagine an alternative scenario. You walk into that same dinner party. You listen quietly to an ongoing debate about interest rates. When there's a pause, you gently add a brilliant, highly specific piece of missing information that completely reframes the debate.
You don't pitch anything. You just drop immense value and take a sip of your wine.
What happens next? Everyone leans in, they look at you, and they whisper, "Who is that person?"
Right.
You have triggered curiosity instead of the sales defense reflex. Frank gives a 3-part formula for constructing this exact type of comment.
Let's hear it.
1. Agree with a single detail in the original post. 2. Add a single misstep or a mini-solution. 3. Close with a small anecdote proving you have in-the-trenches experience. Absolutely 0 sales pitches.
Let's script a hypothetical example. Let's say I am that B2B software consultant and a massive influencer in the tech space posts about how frustrating it is to migrate data to a new CRM.
Huh.
The wrong way to comment is, "I do CRM migrations, hire me."
Exactly. Now use Frank's formula.
Okay. Part 1, agree with the detail. I completely agree that the data cleaning phase is where most companies lose their minds.
Good.
Part 2, add a misstep. One massive bottleneck people miss is failing to map custom fields before the export, which corrupts the whole database.
Nice.
And Part 3, the anecdote. We started running a 10-point audit on custom fields before every migration last year, and it cut the transition time in half.
That is a masterclass comment. Let's look at the psychology of the people reading it. The original poster loves it because you validated their point, so they will probably like it or pin it.
Right.
The other readers, who are currently suffering through CRM migration, realize you possess technical knowledge they desperately need. Their curiosity takes over. They click your profile icon.
And when they click my profile, boom, they land on the perfectly constructed airstrip. They read the one-sentence promise. They see the quick win pin post. The trap snaps shut. They convert into a follower.
It is a totally frictionless $0 funnel. You leveraged someone else's audience to prove your competence, and you siphoned off a percentage of their highest intent followers.
That covers the social feeds and OPA. But you also mentioned search. How do we force discovery through search without spending hundreds of dollars a month on complex SEO software?
Frank calls this strategy question capture. And it is based on the reality that modern social platforms, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, are essentially massive search engines.
Yeah, people don't use Google as much for this stuff anymore.
And search intent is the highest form of buyer intent. If someone is passively scrolling a feed, they want to be entertained. If someone actively types a question into a search bar, they are in pain and they want a solution right now.
So how do we find out exactly what they're searching for?
You use the autocomplete function natively built into the platform's search bar. Frank suggests using specific prompt phrases. You type, "How much does it cost to?" Or "Is it worth it for small businesses to?" Or "What is the difference between?"
And then you just wait.
You type those first few words and you let the platform's algorithm finish the sentence.
Because the autocomplete isn't guessing. It is showing you the aggregate data of millions of users. It is literally handing you the exact phrasing of the highest volume search queries.
Frank has a brilliant quote about this in the source. He says, "Those aren't content ideas, they're demand data."
Their demand data. That fundamentally shifts how you view content creation. You aren't guessing what the market wants. You are just answering the questions the market is already screaming into the void.
Exactly.
Once you have that data, how do you construct the post to capture the traffic?
You structure it with rigid, SEO-friendly mechanics. First, the title of your post must repeat the question exactly. If the autocomplete query is, "How much does a local plumber cost in 2026?" your title is, "How much does a local plumber cost in 2026?"
Don't try to be clever or poetic,
No, match the search query verbatim.
because the algorithm is scraping the text to index the video or the post.
Right. Second, you answer the question directly in the first two lines. Do not do a 30-second introduction about your day.
Nobody cares.
The viewer is searching for an answer, give it to them immediately to secure the dwell time. And third, you must include a savable element, a checklist, a pricing tier graphic, a step-by-step framework.
We need to unpack the algorithmic weight of a save.
Sure.
Why is a savable element so much more powerful than just asking for a like?
Because of how the machine learning system calculates utility, a like is a fleeting, low-friction moment of approval. It tells the algorithm, "This was fine."
Right.
But a save is a high-friction action. It signals long-term utility. It tells the machine, "This piece of content is so dense, so valuable that I need to bookmark it to reference it again in the future."
Wow.
When an algorithm sees a high ratio of saves, it keeps that post circulating in search results for weeks or even months because it categorizes it as evergreen educational material.
That is how a tiny account with 50 followers can have a post organically reach 10,000 people over a 3-month period. It becomes a permanent asset.
Precisely. And this ties perfectly into the data provided in the source from the Tilt's creator Benchmark Research Archive.
Let's talk about that data.
The Tilt analyzed the broader creator economy, and they found a very grounding statistic. The average successful content creator operates with roughly 4,000 followers.
Only 4,000. That completely shatters the myth of the million-follower influencer being the only way to make a living online.
It proves mathematically that a middle-class creator economy exists, and it runs entirely on micro-communities. If you use question capture and the comment funnel to find 4,000 hyper-specific people who trust you implicitly, you have a highly lucrative business.
You don't need millions of eyeballs. You just need the right eyeball.
Exactly.
Okay, we have the comment funnel, we have question capture. What is the third discovery engine Frank outlines?
He calls it the collab stack. This is a scalable discovery loop built on collaborating with other creators, and he emphasizes that this works even if you are starting at zero, provided you approach it as a stacked progression.
So you don't message the biggest influencer in your niche on day one?
Because they will ignore you or block you.
Right.
You start with micro-influencers. These are accounts that might only have 500 or 1,000 followers, but their audience is highly engaged and overlaps perfectly with your target demographic.
Okay.
You approach them and offer a one-sided content swap. You do all the heavy lifting, you write the post, design the graphic, record the video, and you give it to them to post on their channel, tagging you.
It's an undeniable win-win. They get high-quality, free content to serve their audience without having to do any work, and I get an endorsed introduction to a new pool of potential followers.
Once you prove that works, and your profile-to-follow conversion rate is undeniable, you move up the stack. You graduate to peers people at your exact level. And eventually, you use the momentum from those peer collaborations to pitch slightly bigger accounts.
Which makes total sense.
But the source includes a massive neon-flashing warning label regarding this strategy.
Let me guess. Mass DMs.
Do not use mass DMs.
The dreaded generic copy-paste blast. Hey bro, love your content, let's collab, check out my page.
It is toxic. It destroys your reputation within the niche instantly. And if enough people report your message as spam, the platform will silently throttle your entire account.
You will be shadow banned.
Frank recommends a highly targeted approach. You map out just 2 to 3 potential partners a month, you spend time researching what their audience is complaining about, and you craft a highly personalized, deeply researched pitch that solves a problem for them.
One personalized, high-value invitation is worth 1,000 generic spam attempts.
Always.
Okay, I want to take a step back and look at the big picture here.
Yeah.
We have all these tactical pieces.
Yeah.
The airstrip, the
It's-
comment funnel, question capture, the collab stack.
Yeah.
But as I am sitting here processing this, if I am a small business owner, let's say I run a landscaping company, and I'm already working 60 hours a week, managing crews, dealing with supply chains, handling payroll.
You're exhausted.
Exactly.
Knowing what to do on social media is great, but execution is where small business owners actually drown. How do you expect me to fit commenting, searching, researching, and collaborating into a realistic schedule without completely burning out in week 2?
That is the most important question of this entire deep dive. Because a perfect strategy that you can't sustain is a useless strategy.
Right.
This is where Frank's playbook transitions from high-level marketing theory to gritty daily operations. He outlines a very strict 30-day operational tempo.
An operational tempo, that sounds almost military.
It needs to be treated with that level of discipline.
Mm.
The core philosophy here is that being a content factory is useless if nobody sees it. So you don't focus on volume, you focus on a repeatable rhythm of distribution.
How does he break it down?
Frank divides this rhythm into daily actions and weekly actions.
Let's break down the daily non-negotiables first. He recommends executing these in short time boxes, right? You aren't meant to sit at your computer for 4 hours a day doom scrolling and calling it research. Exactly. The magic is in the consistency of the touch points, not the length of the marathons. There are 3 daily actions. Action 1, publish. You ship one single piece of content aligned with your demand-driven pillars. This ensures there is always a fresh entry point to your profile.
Action 2.
Discovery. This is where you spend 15 to 20 minutes executing the comment-to-follower funnel on high-momentum posts or answering search queries. You are actively venturing out into the platform to pull people back to your airstrip.
And action 3 is relationship. What does relationship management look like on a daily basis for a small account?
It means treating every single interaction like a precious resource. You respond to every comment on your own posts as quickly as possible. But more importantly, you circle back to the people who engaged with you yesterday.
Oh, that is incredibly smart. You are engineering that repeat engager algorithmic signal we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And Frank adds one more daily relationship task. Actively start one authentic conversation with an ideal follower in the direct messages. Just one.
Just one. I love how achievable that is. You aren't trying to network with 100 people and losing your mind. You are just being a human being, having one real conversation a day. Over a month, that is 30 deep connections.
Those 3 daily actions, publish, discover, relationship, keep the baseline engine humming, but then you have the weekly stacked action.
That's a deeper move.
These are the deeper strategic moves. There are 4 of these designed to be done once a week.
Let's list the 4 weekly tasks.
Task 1. One collab reach out. Highly relevant, heavily researched, personalized. Task 2. One pillar content post. This is your heavy hitter for the week. The highly savable, deeply researched checklist or framework that takes a bit more time to produce.
So you aren't trying to make cinematic viral masterpieces every single day. Most of your daily posts can be simple, quick thoughts, but you commit to one truly excellent piece a week. What is task 3?
One research hour.
This is my favorite part of the entire framework.
Yeah.
What exactly are we researching for an hour?
You are mining the exact vocabulary of your customers. You are looking at comment sections of your competitors. You are looking at Reddit threads. You are reading your own DMs.
Just absorbing it all.
You are looking for the exact phrases people use when they are frustrated. You write those exact words down, and you use them to write your hooks for the next week's content.
It's like taking an open book test. You don't have to guess what the market wants. The audience is literally telling you exactly what is holding them back. You just have to listen and parrot their pain back to them with a solution attached.
And finally, the 4th weekly action. One profile refresh. You treat your profile like a dynamic storefront window, not a static monument.
Because things change.
If you had a post that drove a massive amount of traffic to your profile this week, but your follower count didn't budge, that is a data point. I mean, something in your bio or your pin posts isn't converting. So you spend 15 minutes tweaking the one-sentence promise or swapping out a pin post.
This entire tempo, the daily touch points, the weekly strategic deep dives, it feels so incredibly methodical. It completely removes the manic energy that usually surrounds social media growth.
But Frank also points out that you cannot just run this exact identical system blindly forever. You have to optimize your actions based on what stage of growth you are currently in.
Makes sense.
Doing the right thing at the wrong time will stall your growth entirely. He breaks the $0 journey into 3 distinct stages.
Okay, stage 1, 0 to 50 followers. You are literally just starting out. What is the psychological goal here?
At 0 to 50 followers, your only goal is to prove value and establish relevance. You do this by heavily indexing on the comment funnel. You show up where your target audience already is, and you mirror the topics they are already consuming.
So you blend in.
You want them to know exactly what they are getting. You are essentially borrowing authority.
So you aren't trying to reinvent the wheel or introduce wild new concepts. You are joining the existing conversation and proving you belong at the table. Once you hit 50, you move to stage 2. 50 to 200 followers. How does the strategy shift?
Here, the algorithmic goal shifts to cultivating repeat consumption. This is where you start grouping your content into sequences. For example, part 1 of 3 on saving money on taxes. And most crucially, this is where you start explicitly calling out your returning engagers in your content.
Calling them out, like mentioning them by name.
Yes. Hey, Sarah, I know we talked about this in the comments last week. When a platform sees you interacting deeply with the same group of people repeatedly, it registers that as proof of a sustainable, sticky community.
That's brilliant.
It strengthens your algorithmic standing immensely.
And then we reach the final stage of the $0 start, 200 to 1,000 followers.
At this point, your baseline relevance is proven. The algorithm knows who you are and who likes you. Now your goal is to scale distribution.
Time to turn it up.
You look at your analytics, identify the formats that are driving the most saves and shares, and you double down on them. You also heavily ramp up your collab stack because you now have enough followers and engagement to prove to other creators that you are a worthwhile partner.
I really want to pause here.
Yeah.
I want you, the listener, to do a moment of genuine self-reflection. Think about the last month of your life on social media. When you post something, what are you actually tracking?
Such a good question.
Are you tracking how you feel about the post? Are you tracking if you got a bunch of meaningless likes from your high school friends? Or are you tracking if your profile visits went up before your follower count did?
That is the pivotal distinction that cures creator burnout. Profile visits are the leading indicator of success. Follower count is the lagging indicator.
Yes. Let's explore why that mindset shift is so important. If you only look at your follower count and it doesn't move for 3 days, you feel like a failure. You want to quit. But if you look at your analytics and see that your profile visits are up 40% because of a great comment you left,
Yeah.
you know the engine is working. You know you just need to tweak your bio to convert that traffic.
By tracking the leading indicator, you regain a sense of control. You stop relying on algorithmic luck. Frank states that if you follow this exact daily and weekly tempo and you monitor your profile visits, the flywheel should theoretically start spinning by week 2.
Okay, so let's visualize this. The system is running beautifully. You are hitting your daily time boxes, your weekly stack is optimized, your profile airstrip is converting traffic.
That's all working.
The leading indicators are flashing green, and the followers are trickling in steadily. But Frank warns of a silent killer. There is something that can destroy this entire growth engine from the inside out, even while your numbers appear to be going up.
Yes, attracting the wrong crowd.
Let's talk about quality control, because this ties back to our earlier discussion about relevance, and I want to introduce an analogy to really hammer home how dangerous this is.
Go ahead, lay out the analogy.
Imagine you invest your life savings into opening a brilliant, highly specialized vegan bakery. You make the best vegan cupcakes in the city. But it's your first week, and foot traffic is slow. You start to panic.
Okay.
In an act of desperation to just get a crowd in front of your store, you set up a grill on the sidewalk and start giving away free traditional meat hot dogs.
You will definitely draw a massive crowd very quickly.
A huge crowd, hundreds of people lined up down the block. But the moment you turn around, point inside your store, and try to sell them a $6 vegan cupcake, they're going to laugh at you and walk away.
Of course they are.
You successfully gathered a crowd by completely poisoning your own customer base. You attracted a massive group of people who possess absolutely zero intent to buy what you actually sell.
That is precisely what happens on social media when you pursue low-intent growth tactics just to see the numbers go up. Frank explains that low-intent content might drive a huge spike in views. Maybe you jump on a trending dance challenge, or you post a generic inspirational meme that has absolutely nothing to do with your B2B software consultancy.
And the algorithm watches that happen. It sees thousands of people liking this dance video.
Yes, and the algorithm concludes, this account is designed for people who want quick, mindless entertainment. It categorizes your account. So the next day, you post your highly researched, incredibly valuable pillar content about CRM migration. The algorithm dutifully shows it to your new followers, the entertainment seekers,
And they scroll past it in half a second because it's boring to them.
which tells the algorithm that your new post is terrible. Your reach plummets. You have effectively trained the machine to hide your actual business content.
So how do we actively signal high quality to the algorithm? If the mere act of someone clicking follow isn't enough, what is?
The quickest way to signal quality is what happens after the follow. Does the user consume your pinned posts? Do they save them? Do they leave comments that contain high-intent markers?
Let's define high-intent markers. What does a high-intent comment actually look like for a small business?
A low-intent comment is "great post" or a fire emoji. A high-intent marker is a comment that casually reveals specific demographic or purchasing data. It mentions a physical location, a budgetary constraint, a timeline, or a highly specific situational problem.
So if I am a local contractor and someone comments, "We live in Austin and we're looking to renovate our kitchen before next spring. Do you handle the city permitting process?"
That is the holy grail. That single comment is worth more algorithmic weight than 1,000 fire emojis.
Because it's real business.
Because the platform's natural language processing models read that comment, recognize the commercial intent, and begin searching for other users with similar behavioral patterns in the Austin area.
To ensure you are actually accumulating these high-intent followers, Frank recommends a practice that sounds incredibly tedious but mathematically essential: manual quality control.
Yes, he advises that you should periodically stop what you are doing and manually review your last 30 new followers.
Literally clicking on their profiles one by one. What exactly are we auditing them for?
You are asking yourself a checklist of questions. Are they geographically or niche relevant to my business? Do they have real names and an actual human posting history? Or are they bot accounts? Have they engaged with my content more than once in the last 7 days?
And what happens if they fail the test? What if I look at my last 30 followers and realize 25 of them are random, out-of-state accounts with no profile pictures who never engage?
Frank's advice here is stark and uncompromising. If less than roughly 20 out of those 30 are a good fit, you must stop pushing.
Wow. Stop posting. Shut the engine down.
Stop the distribution engine immediately. Do not try to grow further. If you are attracting the wrong people, something is fundamentally broken in your one-sentence promise, or you are leaving comments in the wrong ecosystem.
You are fishing in a toxic pond.
If you keep fishing there, you will permanently ruin the algorithmic categorization of your account. You have to tweak the bio, adjust your content pillars, and start testing again.
This level of manual scrutiny makes it so clear why tactics like follow for follow or F4F are so destructive.
Follow for follow is absolute poison for a business account. When you participate in F4F threads, you are gathering followers who solely care about artificially inflating their own vanity metrics. They do not care about your content.
They just want the follow back.
They will follow you, and then they will actively ignore everything you post for the rest of time.
Which actively tanks your engagement rate. Because when I post a new video, the algorithm shows it to a test sample of my followers first. If that test sample is filled with F4F accounts who ignore it, the algorithm kills the post before it ever reaches the wider network.
Exactly. Frank points out that this mechanical reality is the exact reason why so many creators feel artificially capped or shadow banned between 300 and 800 followers.
I hear that all the time.
They post every day, but they can't grow. It's because they built a hollow audience early on, and now their engagement rate is permanently suppressed. He also heavily warns against any bot-like behavior, even if you are doing it manually.
What qualifies as bot-like behavior? Like spamming the like button on 100 posts in 5 minutes?
Yes, or dropping the exact same "love this" comment on 50 different videos in a row. The platforms employ incredibly sophisticated anti-spam heuristics. If your behavior mimics a bot, the algorithm will silently restrict your reach. You won't even know it happened. Your views will just dry up.
Okay, so we are manually auditing our followers. We are avoiding spammy behavior. We are terrified of low-intent growth. But how do we ensure we keep hitting the bullseye as we scale from 100 to 500 to 1,000 followers? How do we know what to say to keep them engaged?
You have to utilize your audience as a continuous live research group. This loops back to that weekly research hour. You are aggressively digging into your comments and your direct messages looking for repeated buying points. Frank highlights 3 specific types of user messages that should immediately trigger a new piece of content.
Let's break down those 3 message types. This is pure gold for anyone who struggles with content ideation.
The first type of message to look for is clarity. The user reaches out and says, hey, this part of your advice worked great for me, but this other part didn't make sense or didn't work in my situation.
That is a massive opportunity. They are literally handing you the script for your next post. You can build an entire piece of content addressing the nuance of why it didn't work for their specific situation. What is the second type?
Either this is a direct comparison question. Should I buy product A or should I buy product B?
Boom. That maps perfectly to the comparison content pillar we talked about earlier. You just do a deep dive comparing the two. And the third type of message.
Deadline. The user says, I want to achieve this specific goal by the end of next month, or I need to fix this before my launch on Friday.
That feeds directly into the quick win pillar. You can build a step-by-step roadmap tailored to their exact deadline.
Exactly. Now, when you spot one of these 3 patterns, Frank's immediate action step is crucial.
Yeah.
You don't just write the post in secret. You reply directly to the user with an intention-disclosing question. You ask them to elaborate on their problem.
Okay.
And then this is the magic part. You build a new post addressing their exact problem, and you publish it within 48 hours.
Within 48 hours. Think about the psychological impact of that on the user. You are proving to them in real time that you are actively listening to their pain. You aren't just broadcasting at them. You are building a customized solution for them. That creates an insane level of brand loyalty.
It creates a closed feedback loop. And to maintain this level of highly relevant output without exhausting yourself, you have to embrace the concept of recycling. If that comparison post you made about product A versus product B performs incredibly well, you do not just forget about it and try to invent a brand new topic tomorrow. You recycle the core architectural lesson across different formats.
So you take the script of that comparison post and you turn it into a quick, punchy checklist graphic. Then, 3 weeks later, you tell a story about a client who made the wrong choice between those 2 products. Then you reframe it as a costly mistake post.
Frank calls this practice comforting repetition, and it is a brilliant psychological concept. To the creator, it feels like you are repeating yourself endlessly. You get bored of your own message. But to the audience, it doesn't feel repetitive. It feels like you possess a consistent, reliable, unwavering philosophy.
And we have data to prove that this intense focus on user behavior isn't just a gimmick for tiny accounts. It is how the entire digital economy operates at the highest levels of scale.
Precisely. The source includes a reference to a massive study conducted by the Pew Research Center. They surveyed 2,745 U.S. adult TikTok users specifically to map out their behavioral usage patterns, how they interact with the algorithm, how their consumption habits shift.
It's a huge study.
Major research institutions and billion-dollar platforms dedicate vast resources to understanding these micro-behaviors. They take audience intent incredibly seriously. It's not about guessing what goes viral. It's about deeply observing human behavior and adapting to it.
It's an absolute science. And when you combine that intense level of psychological quality control with the ruthless 30-day operating tempo we outlined earlier, having a $0 budget stops being a limitation entirely.
It ceases to be a limitation because consistency, when paired with high relevance, is a mathematical system, not a hustle. You are continually multiplying the doors that lead into the exact same room rather than trying to exhaust yourself building 50 different rooms.
I like that.
The algorithm simply copies your audience. If your first 100 followers are high-intent buyers who engage deeply, the algorithm will go find you 900 more people who look exactly like them.
So let's bring this all together. What does this deep dive mean for the listener who started this hour staring at a beautiful, meticulously designed, completely empty digital storefront in the middle of a barren desert? Let's recap the exact architecture of the road we just built.
Let's do it.
Finding your first 1,000 followers on a $0 budget requires a fundamental destruction of traditional vanity metrics. You need an airtight, mathematically clear one-sentence promise that makes hitting the follow button a frictionless, logical choice for your specific demographic.
Yes.
You need daily, $0 discovery loops like the surgical comment funnel and search question capture that intersects with existing market demand rather than praying for a random viral lottery ticket. You need a realistic, time-boxed operating rhythm that a stressed small business owner can actually sustain for months. And above all, you need ruthless, manual quality control over the intent of the audience you allow into your ecosystem.
And the final payoff of executing this system, as Frank notes, is profound. If you maintain this discipline, your profile ceases to be just a single account begging to be discovered. It transforms into a comprehensive, highly indexed collection of resources.
It becomes an asset.
It becomes a gravitational force that automatically surfaces exactly when your ideal customers are searching, scrolling, and trying to solve their most painful problems.
At that point, a $0 budget becomes your superpower. Because you haven't artificially subsidized your way to the top with cash or engagement pods. You've earned your position through pure, undeniable relevance. The only thing dictating your success is how deeply you understand and serve the specific human beings in your niche.
I want to leave everyone with one final perspective-shifting thought to mull over. Throughout this entire hour, we have repeatedly talked about the algorithm. We talk about it as if it is this monolithic, judgment-passing deity in the sky that decides whether our content is good or bad.
We really do.
We spend countless hours trying to hack the algorithm, trying to decode what it secretly wants. But based on the deep algorithmic mechanics we've unpacked today, the algorithm isn't a judge at all. It is nothing more than a mirror.
A mirror.
Yes. It is a highly efficient mirror reflecting your audience's behavior back at you. If your growth is stagnant, maybe the algorithm isn't broken and maybe it doesn't hate you. Maybe it is just accurately reflecting a broken promise.
That is heavy.
It is reflecting a confused bio, a lack of high-intent followers, or a content strategy that violates audience expectations. So here's the question you have to ask yourself. What would happen to your business tomorrow if you completely stopped creating content for the algorithm and started creating exclusively for the last human being who sent you a DM asking for help?
That is an incredibly clarifying question. Stop trying to please the machine and start answering the actual human being in front of you. If you do that consistently, the machine takes care of the distribution automatically. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Don't let your beautiful storefront sit out there in the desert for another day. Start auditing your own airstrip right now. Crystallize your one-sentence promise and go find the conversations where your future audience is already waiting for you. We will catch you on the next one.